Morning, everybody. This is a CapN call for January 5th, 2021. Happy New Year, everybody. We don't really have any things on the agenda, but if you could, just make sure you can go put yourself to the attending list. And if you have anything to talk about, add those to the list. Really just wanted to keep this call. I imagine, I know all of the Apple folks weren't online until basically this morning, so there's not many updates from us. Faye, I saw you did a bunch of things on virtual cluster over the last couple weeks. I'm not sure if you wanted to talk about anything you did there, but I'm just gonna kind of leave the complete agenda open if anybody wants to talk about anything. From my side of things, just a quick update as well. I started working on right before the break, making the Kube API server controller, just to see what that was going to look like using the cluster add-ons and declarative patterns project, just to feel out that side of things. But haven't gotten anywhere close to a PR yet.
Yeah, so I think Chris and I we should start working on the CAPI controller CRD design and that spec to kick off the Intel thing. Our side, I don't think Paul is online. He's in paternity leave for 2 weeks. So, but assuming he will coming back to work on the EDCD. I need to double check with him. Is either EDCD or API server CAPI controller implementation. Real quick. In my side, I'm trying to. I think I have discussed with Chris offline. I was trying to add in support to let Syncer to support multiple superclusters, which is a request I heard from internally, both internally and externally. I timely got Slack channel ping say ask me if working cluster can support more than one supercluster. So I think that's an interesting problem, and I'm trying to resolve it. But again, this is a rough idea. That's the reason if you look at it, I'm creating a experimental directory in the VC repo. What I'm thinking is I will have a kind of another scheduler, but the scheduler is not scheduling pod for multiple clusters. Instead, we probably will schedule a namespace across multiple clusters. But I'm going to do it in a kind of more flexible way, in the sense that I don't have a strict restriction saying that one namespace has to go to one supercluster. I will allow the one namespace, the pods, to spread to more than one supercluster, but with some limitation, in the sense that a user has to specify the quota of the namespace, because we need to do a certain kind of capacity validation, because in our scenario, in many scenarios, so besides the cloud vendor, where you probably can build a supercluster with very excellent auto-scaling capability, but in many other cases, the supercluster size is kind of fixed. It's not easy to auto-scale supercluster. In that case, if we want to have a tenant, because supercluster is kind of transparent to tenant, tenant does not has the entire knowledge about the size of any of the underlying resource provider. He has to tell us the resource that they want, then we can do the arrangement. So kind of we have to got some requirements about the capacity, due to capacity planning carefully. For that reason, in my model, I would ask tenant need to specify the quota of the namespace. Then we will have a kind of scheduler trying to distribute the namespace quota across multiple clusters. So that's a high level idea. And our Syncer will support syncing the paths from the one tenant namespace to multiple superclusters. That is a kind of orthogonal. It's not exactly orthogonal. So I would decouple the problem into two parts. One is the scheduler part. The second is the Syncer part. So Syncer will trying to support syncing having more than one supercluster to sync one tenant namespace. That's a Syncer. Syncer needs to implement that. Other than that, we will have a separate scheduler to decide which supercluster need to handle or sync the resource from the tenant namespace. So that's the high level idea, very high level. I probably will have some document later to explain the details. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm currently this is a not very easy one because in high level idea is kind of simple, but the implementation wise, it may take some time because I need to, yeah. For example, for virtual cluster, we have a virtual cluster CRD, but for the multiple supercluster, currently we don't have any CRD to represent that. I probably will start with just use a CAPI, class API CRD. I don't know if Chris has more better idea, but because somehow we need to have a CRD kind of thing object to represent a supercluster. So what would be the best way to do? I don't want to create a new one. I probably will just use a CAPI at this moment. I'm still thinking about that.
Fei, I think it's interesting ideas. And are you going to work on this in this community or the one in the multi-tenant community?
Here, definitely for here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my question, yeah, go ahead.
Kind of both. It doesn't really matter.
Okay, I just John follow that. That's an interesting idea. So I just want, if you want to present most here, I will just go this meeting. But if you want most to present on another community meeting, which is original.
And, very early stage. I want to have something at least a demoable. Then I will make it more formal. But for now, it's
yeah. But when we talk about the supercluster, multiple supercluster, so how are you going to figure out the network problems? You can still schedule pod on different supercluster, but they are not connected that easily.
The service has to be done. The service part, we have to use the external SLB, service load balancer. We cannot use traditional class IP for sure, because the same workload, the pods cross, if the pods cross clusters and the line, the service just won't work. The class IP won't work. So you have to use the external SLB. That's a hard limitation. There is no easy solution for that.
So are you going to looking for a virtual Kubernetes approach there?
Why? Well, no. I'm exactly use Syncer.
Definitely using not a virtual Kubernetes. That's kind of a borrow a node from others.
The whole problem is currently the Syncer. So currently the problem is Syncer. Only we are sync everything from one tenant master to the one supercluster. Now we have to support selective synchronization. So for one tenant, some namespace, the syncer should sync. But if the namespace belongs to other supercluster, the syncer shouldn't sync it. So the idea is we will have a per supercluster syncer. So each supercluster will have a syncer. It only sync the namespace that belongs to that supercluster.
Okay. Okay, we can discuss more when you have a more detailed design.
Yeah, similarly. Yeah, you and I have talked about this a little bit. It's definitely interesting. And I think solving it at least at the level of saying you can provide the underlying network however you need to make this possible, I think it is at least a reasonable approach for the first version of it. From a registry perspective, from a cluster registry or supercluster registry perspective, I might think about looking into what the multi-cluster SIG is doing. I know there was a cluster registry project at one point that was being built. Out of the box, I can't think of how we would do this directly with cluster API. Because the management clusters are technically the scheduling domain for some of these environments. So it gets a little bit weird where some of the management bits are running where the pods are getting scheduled. So
yeah, I just need one CRD to represent the supercluster. That's all. I can create my own. That's very super easy. That can be just dummy. I just thinking about just create my own or just using some existing one.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm excited to see that as it goes through.
Yeah, and one more thing. So Chris, once I was discussing with you, you have a concern that you don't want to limit the one namespace to one supercluster. So I I think that's a reasonable request, because there are some cases that even a workload, just is too big. So none of the supercluster may support it. You have to split it. So I have to think about that problem. So I will refine my design. So currently, I'm thinking that I will allow the one namespace to go cross multiple.
I'm also looking forward to seeing the design. Are there like any relations to the multi-cluster, like the multi-cluster, like Federation V1 and V2?
Yeah, the difference is Federation on V2, there's no scheduling part in it. So the user has to specify. So there's no scheduling. So user has to say, I want the X replica in class A, I want the Y replica in class B. Everything is transparent. Even the entire topology is transparent. That's so in my thought is in the virtual cluster context, again, is a tenant that doesn't know the super. So this is the whole idea. So you can connect as many supers as you want if you can. But the tenant, what they want to say, tell me, they just need to specify the quota and just use it like running natively. That's the whole thing. And there's no split workload kind of thing. They don't need to think about it at all. They just run one workload with X copy. That's what users experience. This is a major differences there.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm interested to see how that works with the like the need to actually schedule things together. Like if you don't make it explicit where workloads are going, and the networking, then obviously, like we have issues between clusters communicating.
Exactly. So that is a kind of Chris and I were discussing. You have to use external load balancer for sure. But idea is that another assumption is the rows cluster has to be pinnable. You cannot say that the cluster are partitioned. There's no way they can communicate. So there are some assumptions there. But assuming we have a very big flag network, it's just accessible. Then we can have a SLB to do the load balancing, because from a tenant perspective, they still know which endpoint it is and what the IP they are. So you can use the SLB watch for the tenant to get all the EP mapping and do the load balancing. It's still possible, but not native way. You have to do that. That is a limitation you have to do. Yeah, just give us a heads up. Just stay tuned. I probably will post some documents once I have some.
Cool. And then from that VC side of things, were there still open PRs? I haven't had a chance to actually go check in that you needed for any of us to take a look at.
But at this moment, probably no.
Okay.
Jerry and I will do the most of the early type prototyping. So I probably will focus on the scheduler part, and Jerry will focus on the making the syncer to support multiple selective synchronization. That part. Yeah, that I think I see other requirements. So maybe I think that implementation is kind of separated from my cluster. So even I have a very dumb, very bad scheduling design, then you can just get rid of it and you implement your own scheduler and the synchronization part should be separate. And I wish that part can be as clean as possible. But for roles change, Chris, you may help to review, because that is not directly related to the scheduler part.
Cool. All righty. Does anybody else have anything that they wanted to bring up? It's a new year.
Hi, Wei. So actually the CRD syncer part, actually we probably want to do that very similarly internally, because we already got strong requests to sync CRD. So I have told my internal guys about what you guys do. They think they probably will follow your approach at the first place, saying that they probably will build a separate syncer for CRD only at this moment, instead of directly changing the code of the syncer currently, because I think the MC controller still need to has some changes for CRD, right? I vaguely remember you using the unstructured type for MC controller to support CRD. I just give you a heads up. So if we have some more questions, maybe we will ping you to ask.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. I also on my plate to modify this syncer to more universal, so I can use the which we discussed last meeting for things that we can mix them together. So this is still on my plate. When I got some chance, I will work on that, and
just give you some
more on that.
Whatever you do may benefit more than you guys think. We probably will use it.
Okay, that's good.
Nice. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else?
I don't have any agenda.
Sweet. All right. Well, then we can call it a little bit early and give everybody back some time.
Okay. Nice week.
Okay.
Cool.
All right.
All right. See y'all later. Bye.
See you later. Bye.